Thanks for joining us on this beautiful May day. I'm Mike Town. I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia League of Conservation Voters, and I am here joined by our partners, and I want to thank Christy with VCN for asking me to speak first, to call on the governor once again to come out with a strong plan, to use his Executive Order 57 process to come out with a strong plan to reduce carbon pollution in Virginia. So in 2013, when Governor McAuliffe ran for office, for governor, he ran on a platform of addressing climate change. Coming on the heels of an administration that refused to talk about climate change, this was a breath of fresh air for the environmental community. Virginia LCV got behind Governor McAuliffe. We helped bring him to the governor's mansion. 4 years later, the governor has some accomplishments that he can point to. Putting together a climate commission, making sure that climate change is addressed in our cleanup of the Chesapeake Bay, resiliency efforts, solar development throughout the state. But here is his chance. Now is Governor McAuliffe's time. He put together the Executive Order 57 process so we can come up with a real plan to cut carbon pollution. That process is winding down, and now at the end of that process, it is time for the governor to act. We've heard enough rhetoric, we've heard enough words, now we need action. Bold action by the governor to address climate change. Now is his chance. Once the governor acts, we expect him to do a lot over the last 8 months of his term. It's going to be important that Virginians put another environmental leader in the governor's mansion next year so that they can build off of the progress of this administration. But before that happens, we need Governor McAuliffe to put together a plan that will reduce carbon pollution by at least 30% by 2030, and he can go much bolder than that and much beyond that. Over the next couple weeks, we're going to see what that plan is. We hope to stand beside the governor in his announcement, and we commit to working to make sure that what he comes up with, if it's strong, if it's 30% or more by 2030, we will fight to make sure that that becomes the law of the land in Virginia, and we stand committed to make that happen. Now I'm going to bring up Walton Shepard with Natural Resources Defense Council to give a little more detail on what it is that we would like to see.
You might. It's a beautiful day and an auspicious day because today at least 10,000 Virginians proclaim that the Trump assault on human health ends at the Potomac, and that McAuliffe is our wall against that assault if he'll deliver on his climate change promise to Virginians. And he can best deliver on that climate change promise to Virginians through a 30 by 30 plan to reduce carbon pollution from our power plants in Virginia by 30% by 2030. Doing so will not just lower carbon pollution and help to address and start to address climate change, it will also lower energy bills for everyday Virginians instead of increase them under business as usual, as we've already seen. NRDC's analysis shows about a $100 per family savings by 2030, $100 per year savings by 2030 under the 30 by 30 plan. How and why would that occur? How do we know that that would occur? Two things that McAuliffe can deliver on a 30 by 30 plan. Renewable energy, just by increasing our state's renewable output to catch up with the states that are already doing this by achieving 20% of our energy supply from solar and wind energy. Other states are already doing it, and Virginia can catch up. The other way to do that is energy efficiency. Virginia currently has the 10th highest average electricity bills in the nation. And if we invest in energy efficiency, up to about 1.5% energy efficiency savings, that will get us to the 30 by 30 goal, while also reducing energy bills by about $100 per year for the average family. McAuliffe wouldn't just stop the Trump assault on human health through a 30 by 30 plan. He would also single-handedly stop the natural gas expansion and natural gas infrastructure expansion that's already planned for this state. and the rising bills that come with building pipelines, building new power plants that we don't need. Dominion Virginia Power has already built 5 large power plants in a row in this decade alone, when we need to be doing, in fact, the exact opposite. And that is reflected in our rising energy bills. So McAuliffe has a choice to make between rising energy bills, rising seas, and rising pollution with the natural gas expansion plan, or he can lower bills, lower carbon pollution, and increase human health and stop the Trump assault on the Virginia border through a 30 by 30 plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Peter Anderson from Appalachian Voices, who's going to say a few words.
Thanks, Walton. Thank you, Walton. Hi, I'm Peter Anderson. I'm the Virginia Program Manager with Appalachian Voices, a nonprofit out of Charlottesville. I'll just quickly echo what the 2 previous speakers said in terms of we really appreciate Governor McAuliffe's willingness to engage in a process to study methods of carbon reduction in Virginia, but it is now time to act and make good on those promises. From the coast to the capital to the coal fields of Virginia, climate change affects all Virginians. Impacts like floods, droughts, and wildfires will drive up the price of food and insurance. They'll harm businesses, especially in Virginia's large agriculture sector. Sadly, as many studies have emphasized, the poorest communities will be hit the hardest by climate impacts. The Commonwealth must do its part to mitigate the worst impacts of climate change. In order to do so, we just need a strong incentive to deeply decarbonize our electric power sector. That's why Appalachian Voices and over 10,000 supporters, allies, concerned citizens, and businesses are calling for the McAuliffe administration to design a rule that caps carbon emissions from power plants at today's levels and gradually decreases over time. We are calling for a rule that results in a carbon reduction of at least 30% from today's levels by the year 2030. Now, fortunately, a carbon rule benefits all Virginians. A carbon cap should incentivize, as Walton alluded to, significant investments in energy efficiency, because energy efficiency is the cheapest energy resource. All Virginians benefit from lower electric bills, but retail energy savings are especially important to lower income populations who spend a higher percentage of their income on utility bills. Energy efficiency investments make people more comfortable in their homes, and they also generate good paying blue collar jobs. The energy efficiency industry directly employs 2.2 million Americans today, according to ACEEE, and indirectly creates several times as many jobs. Why not incentivize more of these jobs in places like Virginia's coal fields? Another major benefit of a carbon rule is that it would push our utilities to shift away from fossil fuels and towards carbon-free resources like wind and solar. And when we build wind and solar, we save money, we breathe easier, and we create new jobs. According to conservative estimates from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, wind and solar are competitive with or currently are the cheapest forms of new power generation on the market. Moreover, the solar industry is expected to add 100,000 jobs over the next 4 years. A carbon rule here would ensure that Virginia is home to a large portion of that job growth. Most importantly, when carbon-free power displaces coal and gas-fired power, we save some of our most vulnerable populations from breathing particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, carbon monoxide, and a host of other traditional air pollutants. Now, make no mistake, Virginia's electric utilities will not cut their carbon pollution unless a strong regulation is promulgated and enforced. Early analysis of the integrated resource plan that Dominion Power released yesterday shows that the company's proposal would actually increase carbon emissions more than 4% by the year 2050. But experts tell us that we need to decrease carbon emissions 80% by 2050 to avoid the most catastrophic effects of global warming. So for these reasons, we implore Governor McAuliffe to regulate carbon pollution from power plants to achieve at least a 30% reduction in carbon by the year 2030. We are confident that the governor understands the importance of creating a clean energy economy now, both for the protection of all Virginians and for his own climate legacy. Thank you again, Governor McAuliffe, for pursuing this initiative. Next, I'd like to bring up Kendall Crawford from the Virginia Sierra Club.
Hi, my name is Kendall Crawford. I am a Conservation Program Manager with the Virginia chapter of the Sierra Club. Now, the Sierra Club is not an environmental justice organization, but we strive to be a good ally and to stand with overburdened communities across the state. Thank you for the invitation to come and say a few words about the work of the Virginia Environmental Justice Collaborative, which is a loose collection of Virginia-based organizations endeavoring to identify environmental justice communities, to develop leadership, to share resources, and to provide room at the table for these organizations in statewide policy discussions. Today, we are here to mark the closing of a public comment period. Thousands of Virginians from all over the state have participated by letting the McAuliffe administration know that they want to transition to a clean energy economy, more renewable energy, more energy efficiency. But in this conversation, we cannot forget the high historical burdens of pollution rooted in racism and classism that still remain with us today. Of 26 power plants in Virginia, over half were located in areas with above average percentages of people of color, and almost 80% were located in areas with above average low-income populations. Half of Virginia power plants were located in areas with higher percentages than average of both low-income populations and people of color. The fossil fuel industry has a long history of siting power plants strategically, avoiding upper-class areas. Instead, communities with less political and economic power got stuck with the facilities, often along with other unwanted neighbors like highways, heavy industry, and waste dumps. The cumulative effect of this high exposure to multiple pollutants and toxins impacted and continues to impact the health of these fence-lined communities, resulting in higher cancer risk and higher rates of other illnesses such as cardiovascular and respiratory disease. For example, asthma takes its greatest toll on minorities. According to the EPA, Black children are about 4 times more likely to die from asthma than white children. They are also twice as likely to be hospitalized for asthma. African Americans with lower rates of health insurance coverage have fewer resources to manage these added stressors. Latino children fare similarly poorly. Higher poverty rates and lower rates of insurance coverage mean Latino children have more severe asthma attacks than non-Hispanic white children and are more likely to end up in emergency rooms. Environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, when it comes to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws and policies. It is the fair distribution of environmental benefits and burdens, not the piling of the most burdens on communities that have the fewest resources to address them. This is why we have called on Governor McAuliffe's Climate Work Group to recommend the creation of a Virginia Environmental Justice Advisory Council to give a seat at the table to overburdened communities across the state, from the coal fields in the Southwest to the neighborhoods in Hampton Roads dealing with flooding. And to meaningfully engage environmental justice communities in developing and implementing the policies that will impact them. We have recommended that the vulnerability of coastal communities be addressed, renewable energy and energy efficiency jobs programs be available to the unemployed and underemployed, that cumulative and synergistic impacts of multiple sources of pollution be taken into account for permitting, that pollution from power plants be reduced in heavily burdened communities, and for all burdened communities, pollution is not made worse. In conclusion, this is not just a time to reduce carbon pollution. This is a time to reduce environmental injustice. This is a time to reduce environmental burdens. This is a time to ensure that we have an equitable, clean energy economy that benefits all Virginians. Thank you. And we are very excited to deliver these more than 10,000 comments and look forward to hearing from the administration. At this time, I would like to ask my colleagues to join me at the podium. And also I want to welcome any questions from the media.
All good?